Well, good evening, afternoon or morning everyone, wherever you are in this fantastic community. I'm Phil Davis from the Washing Line and I'm here as one of the so-called experts on TSX. That's our podcast. And I'm on the deck at, whose house am I at, Rafe?
You're at Rafe Griffin's place. And what have we learnt in the last little bit? That a lot can happen in football in 24 hours.
Yes, it can indeed. We should kick that off straight away. Terry Kirkham, I thought his head might be on the block, but then I thought, well, he's a good coach. He's got a good record. Surely no. He's gone.
We were talking about it. We're at the Mitchelton versus Albany Creek game on Saturday night that we'll go into a little bit more detail. We saw the score came through.
Yes.
And we're going, something drastic has to happen here.
Uh-huh.
This was one of the scenarios that we put. Did you realistically think that that was going to happen?
No, I didn't, actually. I didn't think that they were going to do that. I didn't think that Terry would quit. But I didn't think they were going to do it. But they did. And I actually, as much as I like TK, I think it's good. I mean, the results weren't there. I'm not sure whether there was dissent in the dressing room, but that's kind of the feeling that was hovering around. What do you think?
Well, plenty of statements made in the off-season. Of course, Cato was brought in.
Yeah.
Charles Mendy.
Yeah.
Jake Reesby went to Roachdale, came back, was lured back.
Yeah.
So, you know, there were no excuses squad-wise in terms of who they had on the books. And, you know, they were making a statement that they were out to win the title.
Yep.
Wasn't looking likely. And now they've made a decisive change. And an old boy comes home with Aaron Philp appointed.
Yeah, indeed. It would be interesting to see whether that makes a difference. We know he's a quality coach, or a quality, well, coach, I guess.
Coached at North Pine there for a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's a good move.
Assistant at Mitchelton, will he potentially drag some players over from Mitchelton to Peninsula? There have a few that have already gone that other direction.
Well, that's right. Yeah, maybe
they can't go back now.
Maybe you can take Miles Castle team. No, I don't think so. But that is the big news, and we believe he might be heading to Olympic FC, who are going to get knocked out of the cup tonight.
By Moggle.
By Moggle.
I don't think that'll happen. But anyway.
Go on, the Brisbane boys. It's about this time of the year that we do like to get, well, I do. I like to get a little bit, well, not so much
parochial.
Bias. Parochial. That's the word I'm looking for. I do like to follow my BPL teams against the NPL sides. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's what we do. We support Brisbane Flight Centre Premier League and Capital League football, which we will be talking about today because there's no games this weekend. Well, there's one. Well, actually, there's a whole bunch of Capital League games.
There are on Friday and Saturday night.
Yeah, the Capital League 4 is playing a whole round, I think.
Yeah, because they've got 13 teams, so they play 26 rounds.
Oh, that's right.
But anyway, let's talk about Peninsula's 2-1 loss to Logan on Saturday night.
Well, our spies tell us that Logan came out breathing fire, raw meat and all that, and up 2-0 over Peninsula, and the shockwaves were felt all around because I wrote them off. I thought Logan were gone.
Well, we learnt that Alex Warrilow had gone up to the Sunshine Coast Fire. The Sherwood boys weren't in the squad. And, yeah, last week we'd written Logan off. We'd said that this was a make-or-break game for them. They made, rather than broke.
They did, and they deserve massive kudos for that. It's a really important game. They've gone up there to Peninsula and won before. A couple of their first season in the top flight, they beat Peninsula 1-0 up there, I believe. But they deserve all the credit for that win. I mean, if you look at the statistics, Peninsula had a lot of the ball, but as I've mentioned during the week in my articles, it's not really about possession so much this season. There's a lot of teams playing without possession and winning. And it's not about sitting back and trying not to lose either. I can't figure it out.
No, I can't figure it out at all. This game we did at least predict, and as we said before, we were at it. Mitchelton 1 defeated Albany Creek 0, but it could have easily been 3-4-0.
Yeah, easily. Albany Creek were missing players, and it really stood out. Mitchie dominated. Ace were okay for the first 15 minutes. They ran out of a bit of steam, and finishing was the only thing that let Mitchie down. But, of course, they won 1-0. We'll talk about the other game a little bit later in the show.
Yeah, as we were going through this game, we were going, so who's Mitchelton's best? And I think we named practically 10 players.
Yes.
The only one we didn't mention was the keeper, Kevin Downs, and basically because he had nothing to do.
He had nothing to do. He didn't make one save the whole night. Okay, he may have picked the ball up, I think, a couple of times from a long ball through that kind of dribbled past the defence, but he certainly didn't have to throw himself around with abandon. I don't think you can really read much into that result, to be honest. Albany Creek will be a different team when they got their full complement of players. They did put in a reasonable show, but crucial 3 points for Mitchelton. They move into second place.
And Albany Creek well, they had Cameron Miller coming back from injury.
Yeah,
He got sent off.
Yes.
2 matches.
Yes.
And it was so subtle that even we missed it on the night.
We did miss it. To track it down after
We've got to stop talking and chatting.
Well, I was watching the game pretty bloody closely, I thought.
That's what I thought too. Anyway.
Yeah, we both were. The next game of the round was another one we predicted, but we didn't predict this scoreline. Rochdale Rovers 7, North Pine United 0, and North Pine scored first.
It was looking good after 6 minutes.
North Pine United won, rather.
Yeah, won. Yeah. Jimmy Fairgrieve scored in 6 minutes.
Yep.
Thinking, oh, hello. Might get a decent game out of this. Bang, 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 bang. 7 individual goal scorers for... I don't think I got to 7.
No, you didn't. It's
7
bang,
individual
bang,
goal
bang,
scorers
bang,
for Rochdale.
Bang, bang. Yeah, 7 individual goal scorers, which is always a good thing. I think coaches really like to see that because spreading the goals around, it means that they're tactically pushing forward and getting themselves into position to score goals.
Ryan Fakeney with 3 assists.
Interesting. He's played well this year. He's been a bit of a surprise packet at Rovers, to be honest. Wasn't sure he'd be in the top side, but he is in the top side and he's playing very well. Rochdale must be third now, I think they are.
Going through the full ladder in a moment. They're in 4th.
Well, they're 4th, yes. The next game, what a cracker this was. This was our game of the round. Capalaba versus Eastern Suburbs. And I've tipped Eastern Suburbs to win, but I was wrong. Capalaba 2, Eastern Suburbs 0. Goals to Sam Fellows and Ahmed Azawi again.
And Azawi, how impressive has he been?
He has been sensational. I think he'd be in the running for the gold medal, for sure.
He's on 9 goals, equal second with Ben Enjoy and 2 behind Carter Glockner. I should have said Josh Sherwood also on 9. So
apparently it was a cracker of a free kick too. It was a real specky.
It always seems to be with him.
Yeah. Interesting trivia for you. Do you know what his nationality is? Ahmed Azawi.
Well, it's Japanese, actually.
It is Japanese.
Although he's got a Middle Eastern background.
Iranian background.
Yes.
Yeah. Kato Aochi first came onto the scene, started scoring goals for Wolves. People thought he was Japanese because his name sounded Japanese, but Ahmed Azawi certainly doesn't sound Japanese. It sounds as Japanese as Mile Stajovski.
So contrasting fortunes. I'm just going to glide over that. So I've said in previous weeks that Capalaba will be a consistent side, not necessarily a top 4 side. Yeah. Might have to rethink that.
I think you should rethink that. I have been a little bit on their bandwagon this year, and with the string of results they've had, they surely are, without doubt, top 4 contenders now.
And thank goodness that Steve Glockner doesn't have any hair because he won't be able to pull any out.
That's a good point. Jeff Erford, well, he must be in the running for coach of the year at this point. I know we're only 9 games in, but he's done a great job. He's reshaped that squad from the ground up pretty much. And, look, results speak for themselves, don't they? If they hadn't lost that game to North Pine, it would have been a big difference,
Well, they're in 6 now with 13 points. If they'd got the points out of that one, they'd be on 16 equal with Holland Park in 3rd.
Yes, indeed. The next game was Lions FC versus Ipswich Knights. That was out at Lions Stadium, and Lions won 3-0. Ipswich obviously played defensive. They played that structure anyway, but it looked like the trick was to hold out for 90 minutes and see if they could bag a goal.
They held out for 61.
They held out for 61, and the danger with those tactics is when you do concede, you have to push forward. And if it's not the kind of football that you generally play, you open yourself up and bang, bang, bang. Diaz, Lewis, and someone else scored the goal. Kenya Takahashi. A lot of Japanese players again this season, aren't there?
A lot of them called Ken or Kenny. Yoshi Koshi down at...
that's a great name.
I love Yoshi Koshi from Mitchelton.
That's a terrific name, it really is. I think Ipswich can take some good stuff out of that result. They obviously caved at the end, but they proved themselves competitive against Lions, and I don't think anyone else would have thought that earlier in the season. They're on the right trajectory, and they're surely in with a chance of... I wouldn't say they're as much contenders for the semi-finals as Capalaba, but they're surely in with a chance of at least competing for a post-season role.
I think avoiding relegation will be the top goal at the moment. And
I think they won't get relegated.
No, I don't think so. No.
3 more points to the Lions. They're 4 points clear at the top of the table. The last game of the round was on Sunday. Holland Park Hawks versus UQFC. And Hawks snuck away with a 1-0 win. It was a goal in the first 20 minutes, something like that. And was also a Japanese player from
Yeah,
memory.
another Japanese player in Ishimoto.
Well, look, UQFC, Holland Park are a strange team, aren't they? You would have thought they'd win that relatively easy, but I think they'd be happy just to get away with the 3 points. UQFC are in trouble.
And they're now in the relegation zone of the club championship
They
table.
are. That was how things pan out on the weekend in the Flight Centre Premier League.
But we might take everyone through the table
well,
where we're at after 9 games.
Well, you're good at that.
And extraordinarily, we've had 9 straight games, no washouts.
I know.
Lions lead the way, 4-point lead over Mitchelton.
Yep.
Then Holland Park on 16. Rochedale catapult themselves into the top 4 on 14.
Yep.
But it's tight. There's only 5 points from third place Holland Park down to Ipswich Knights in 10th. So Logan Lightning in 5th on 13. Capella Bar in 6th on 13. East and Peninsula uncustomary positions, 7th and 8th respectively on 12 points. Albany Creek on 9th with 11 points. Ipswich Knights also on 11 points. UQFC on 7. North Pine on 6, trailing the pack.
Yeah, well, the table is starting to stretch out. Lions have just about ruined the league for us already.
Yeah, and on the club championship table, they lead by almost 40 points.
Yes.
On top of over Rochedale. Looking down the bottom, Mitchelton in 9th on 125, Holland Park 122, and UQFC on 98, North Pine 59. So what's that, a gap from UQ to Holland Park? 24 points, almost a round worth of points there.
Okay, well, that's how it's shaped up. We might just have a quick chat about it.
Westfield FFA Cup match between Brisbane City and Mitchelton.
When I turned up, I was most impressed by the crowd. There was a lot of people.
How many do you reckon?
1,500 maybe?
Wow.
Well, look, the whole grandstand was by the time the game kicked off, I mean, yeah, there were spaces in between the people, but just looking from ground level, it looked full, and that's a great thing. I've been to that ground so many times, and there's 4 people in the stand. Just horrific stuff. A good 80% were for Mitchelton. And if they had scored, I think that they would have blown the roof off the place because they were just really into it. It was a great game, and it was great for the spirit of the game. It proves to me, in a sense, that we need the best teams playing against each other all the time. But anyway, I won't go down the political path. On the field, I mentioned this to you before the podcast. After about 10 minutes, I was convinced Brisbane City were going to win. They were spreading the ball better. Their passing accuracy was very good. Their clearances were staying just inside the touchline. They clear them out, and then there's a contest for the ball. But most importantly, Jason Park was just, every time we got the ball on the left-hand side, he was just making inroads. They had 2 good shots in the first 10, 15 minutes, and Kevin Downs saved them both. But, well, look, it was a clear penalty for the goal, no question. The red card for Mitch Hoare, no question. He tried to take Tim Lawson down outside the box. Lawson stayed on his feet, hit it, and Tim Allen produced a great save. And that could have been the turning point, because if that had gone in, I was talking to a chap that I met at the game, and we both agreed that if Mitchelton had scored, we think they would have went on with it.
What about 1-1? It would have been 1-1 with, about 30 minutes to play or so?
Yep, something like that.
Yep.
Maybe a bit less, but they had plenty of chances, Mitchelton. Ben Njai had some good chances in the first half, but the City shut him down really well. They've got pretty good defensive backline there. They did suffer from the lack of Josh McVeigh and Gabriel Sarasol. Stephen Chester was excellent in the first half, causing all sorts of problems, and Tim Lawson made a big change when he came on. But it wasn't. It was a tense game because there was so much in it. But I honestly think that Mitchelton should bite themselves for the 2 red cards.
Well, Millen had plenty of paperwork to do, didn't he? Three red cards at the end of it, and I think 6 yellows or something like that.
It must be frustrating if you're Leo, because both players were sent off for Mitchelton for second yellow cards. In the context of the game as a whole, spectacular event. Well worth going along to, and kudos to Brisbane City for what they put on. It's a very professional atmosphere there. They've got a great deal of professionalism added in the last 2 years. Obviously, high-profile coach there in John Cosmina. Yeah. Brisbane City through
once people
Yep.
listen to this, they'll know the winners of Southside Eagles versus Acacia Ridge, Lions versus Western Pride, Olympic versus Moggle, and Pine Rivers versus Redlands. Another 4 teams through on Wednesday night. Then, of course, we've got a game Saturday night. Roadstar Rovers hosting Ipswich Knights.
Yes.
Next Tuesday, East versus Brisbane Strikers. And next Wednesday, Moreton Bay versus Capella Bar. Moreton Bay taking it very seriously. They've deferred their game against Western Pride to next weekend.
Yeah, well, they better take it seriously because Capalaba are great and Moreton Bay haven't been great this year, have they?
Not as good as previous years, but they're still in 4th position.
Right. Well, we were just going to mention the Capital Leagues because there is lots of games on and we haven't really been through them this year. So we'll take a look at Capital League 1. Top of the table is South United, Bayside United, Taringa Rovers and North Star. They are all teams who've been in the top flight except for Bayside United, and they would really want to get up, wouldn't they?
And Taringa have hit a bit of a pothole, haven't they?
They have. They lost 2-0 to Centenary.
Won their first 6 and lost their last 2 now.
Yep.
And they're still in contention on 18 points in 3rd position. They win. They got a catch-up game this weekend against Moggle. If they win that, they'll move back into top position.
They will. South United, of course, beat Pine Rivers 1-0, and they're top of the table, which is pretty good, having been promoted. We did predict that they were going to be very good, but Haran Amerivich can't stop scoring. He just scores all the time. It makes Ben Injai look like the sweeper. It's a very interesting top of the table there, and I don't think anyone can really pick which 2 teams are going to go up.
Yeah, Grange Thistle in contention in 5th spot. They've still got 2 catch-up games to play, so...
They do.
Looking at the bottom end of the table, Mount Gravatt in a lot of trouble, just 1 point after 9 games, and for a club with a proud history, you really don't expect them to be down that end of the table.
Well, they're going to really have to produce something now, you'd imagine, because they can't afford to lose too many more games or they are just gone. You know, the other teams around them are going to be winning games here and there. Look at Centenary, they're second last. And they scored 2, they beat Taringa and got 3 points on the weekend.
And Wolves also in a bit of trouble. So the catch-up games this Friday is Centenary versus North Star, and then 3 games on Saturday, Grange Thistle versus Pine Rivers, Brisbane Knights versus Southside Eagles, and Moggle versus Taringa. Yeah,
all important games. As far as referring to Wolves FC, Carol Furphy, I know that she's on Facebook and she's mentioned a couple of times, I haven't been to these grounds for a long, long time because, of course, she's a faithful Wolves supporter. Well, she better get used to it the way things are looking. She's going to be going to a lot of grounds she hasn't been to a long time because Wolves have been in the top flight forever and they don't look like getting out of it, do they?
No, not at the present point of time.
No.
So on to Capital 2, and the Gap and Acacia Ridge lead the way there, both with games in hand on 19 points. So too Western Spirit on 19 points in 3rd. Then a 4-point gap back to 4th placed Oxley. Yeah,
Oxley were better last year, I think. The league's better this year. Oxley nearly got promoted. They were top for a long time, but I just think their competition is better. Western Spirit, well, it's Brody Kenyon.
Yes.
You know? A
couple of old Lions boys out that way.
A couple of old Lions boys. But the game of the round last week was the Gap versus Acacia Ridge, 1st versus 2nd, and what happened? Acacia Ridge absolutely smashed the Gap, 5-1. It's like, you know, people must be starting to take a look at it who are in that squad for Acacia Ridge because they're obviously quality players.
Scored 33, conceded 6. So both those top 2 teams in action in catch-up matches on the weekend. The Gap hosting Brisbane Force on Friday night, while Acacia Ridge make the trip down to the tricky New Farm Park on Saturday. Capital 3, Virginia on 25 points. I know you will be. Toowong on 24. Those 2 have skipped out to a 6-point lead over Tarragindi Tigers on 18 and Clairvaux on 15.
Well, I think that I'm going to stick my neck out here and say that Virginia and Toowong are virtually short of.
That's really sticking your neck out with a 6-point lead, isn't it?
Well, it's only round 9.
Although Virginia hit they are still undefeated. They came close to their first loss last week. But look, Toowong have been pushing for a number of years for promotion. Yeah. This is looking like the year. Down the bottom end, Ridge Hills on 1 point after 8 games.
The big story, actually, for me in Capital League 3 is Clairvaux.
Clairvaux, yes.
You know, they've always been there or thereabouts in the relegation zone. They don't have the greatest facilities. They play on a school oval. But they're in 4th.
It's an interesting division because only the top 3 teams have a positive goal difference. Clairvaux, 24-4, 27 against.
Interesting.
Our mate Tim Moore AC Carina, 13-4-16 against.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so shows that the domination, particularly from Virginia United and Toowong in that league.
It's worth mentioning, of course, that Virginia and Toowong have played each other, and Virginia won 4-0, which people didn't see coming. For me, mark that in. Virginia, next year, Capital League 2, you will be playing against Virginia United, and you will be, it's not as certain, but you will also be playing against Toowong, because I don't think that Tarragindi or AC Carina or any other teams have got the firepower to catch them.
Two cellar dwellers looking for points this weekend in a catch-up match. Ridge Hills hosting Barden-Latrobe.
Well, that's an interesting game. Barden-Latrobe, they've got potential for growth, you know. They're in quite a good location, that history, and they've already grown. I mean, they were virtually non-existent until 2 years ago.
Let's talk about the most intriguing comp in Queensland.
Well, half the most intriguing comp.
Capital 4, Bethania lead the way on 21 points, but Caboolture and Samford, both on 19, have played 2 less games. So too St George Willawong on 19 as well, with 2 less games. Deception Bay in the mix there on 18.
Yeah.
And then it starts to fall away. Logan Metro on 13 and others behind them.
Yeah, it's almost like we've got 2 leagues there. It's like, well, the bottom league is almost like a Logan. But Bethania are top. I don't think they've really come up against the best opposition so far, although they have played Samford. I can't remember. I'm not going to go into details. It's very hard to keep track of every league, you know, every single game. But Bethania, Caboolture, Samford, St George Willawong, those 4 teams can get promoted.
Now, you got chipped by the Caboolture coach,
I did.
Nathan Walker.
Oh, was that the Caboolture coach?
Yes.
Oh, my God, I apologise, Nathan. What did I say? Something silly like...
That Greenbank were going to be competitive. Caboolture 20, Greenbank 0. Apparently, one of the boys had planned a wedding for that weekend, so half the Greenbank boys were out at one of the players' weddings, and... Yes, and Caboolture 20-0. That gives them 55 goals, 4 after 7 games, 7-8. So 8 goals a game on average. Plus 49. Yeah. Samford Rangers on plus 37. St George Willawong plus 30 goal difference.
Well, look, I said...
And that might be crucial come to the end of the season in terms of promotion.
I said... I'm glad that he listens, by the way. I'm impressed. I said that I thought Caboolture may struggle to get out of that league at the first attempt. That's simply because there are other good teams in the league. I mean, it's one thing to beat Greenbank 20-0, but they've got to beat Samford, they've got to beat St George Willawong, and I think St George Willawong is going to be a real competitive contest.
And a great defensive record they've got so far. 3 goals only conceded in 7 matches.
Yep. Now, the thing that that troubled me about Caboolture was that because they had so many games in hand, it's always better to bird in the hands, you know, 2 in the bush kind of thing. But that has no relevance anymore because they're up into second. Only an idiot would say Caboolture aren't going to get promoted, wouldn't? What do you...
Well, it looks to be a three-way race between Caboolture, Samford and St George Willawong. You can't throw Bethania out of the mix considering they're up the table, but they are the 3 undefeated sides so far. This weekend's matches, Logan Metro hosts St George Willawong, North Brisbane against Greenbank, Logan Village versus Deception Bay, Bethania versus Brighton, Samford versus Logan City Kings, Springfield versus Caboolture and Kangaroo Point Rovers have the bye. Well, we might invite Nathan Walker on to return serve.
Yes. Well, I'm pretty sure that every one of those games is virtually decided because it's all top half versus bottom half. Yeah, but I think we'll get... we'll get much more out of that division as the season rolls along, which is a really good thing. And, 2 of those teams, they go up and they deserve to be in Capital 3. It's a shame with Samford that they were just so horrible for so long. Now they've got down to the Capital 4 and they look the goods again. I mean, what's happening there?
Well, they've brought in Forsyth as a coach. His son Dane's going pretty well there.
So that is the Capital Leagues and how things are shaping up. There's some really good contests, some good competitions. Keep your eyes and ears open for when the main teams are playing each other because they're really high quality games and worth getting out and having a bit of a poke around. The one thing that I keep in mind is there's a lot of 3 o'clock games in the lower division. So if you fancy it, which I often do, shoot out to a 3 o'clock game, watch one of the contests in the Capital Leagues, and then you can head off to a Premier League game. That's the roundup for the week. There are
We got one Premier League game to talk about. Lions versus UQFC on Sunday night.
Oh, that's right. Lions are playing UQFC. Oh, that should be close.
Yeah, that was my stunned silence. 3-0 Lions.
Oh, well, look, it'll be a major upset if UQ beat Lions. But I think the neutrals in the football community want to see Lions lose, to be honest.
Make life interesting at the top of the table.
Yeah, look, I still think they're going to win it even if they lose the game. But it was interesting that they talked about, people talked about 4 losses this season and you could still win the league. I think everyone's lost 4 except Lions, haven't they? We're pretty close.
So Lions with 1 loss, Mitchelton with 3, Holland Park with 3, Roadstar with 3, Logan Lightning and Capella Bar with 4, Albany Creek have lost 4, Peninsula have only lost 3, and Ipswich Knights have lost 4. East have lost 5. So there's only 3 teams that have lost more than 4, and that's East, UQFC and North Pine.
I'm going to have to take a step ladder with me whenever I go to Heath Park because I've got to get on the bandwagon and then I've got to get back off it again because their form is just confounds me. But, okay, get out to Lions. Okay, I'm tipping Lions. Lions 5-0. All right, look, thanks for listening this weekend. The big game on Saturday night is Rochdale Rovers versus Ipswich Knights, Westfield FFA Cup. Get out there if you can. It's going to be a great occasion. And
early kick-off, 5 o'clock.
Early kick-off, 5 o'clock. Perfect.
Get a Rovers burger.
Get a Rovers burger, and then you can get home at 7 o'clock and do whatever you do on a Saturday night. I don't know, watch some cooking show.
No A-League on Saturday nights anymore.
Yes. I'm Phil Davis from the Washington Line.
And I'm Rafe Griffin on the deck.
And we'll be back next week. Bye.